The amazing digital circus finale felt like a real circus performance. It was colourful, bright, and it left you speechless. But at the end of it, you can't help but think that something was off. Maybe the clown's jokes didn't land as much as they should have, or that weird monkey kept staring at you. The finale does a lot of things right. It delivers several intense emotional scenes and, all things considered, wraps up this series in a satisfying way. Still, there are several problems that prevent it from being the true final chapter this story deserved. Hi, I'm Serpentine, and I'm someone who digs deeper than your average YouTube reviewer. In this video, I'm going to give a detailed analysis of the final episode and explore the metaphors, character arcs, and hidden meanings of the story. While I enjoyed the finale and have many positive things to say, there are three main issues I want to address. Jax's arc and its favoritism, Caine's redemption cut short, and the absence of Ragatha's arc. The biggest issue is Jax's story, so let's start with that. The one that took the most time, Jax's abstraction plotline, is one of the emotional cores of the show. Many people say that Jax abstracting behind the scenes was actually very cheap and satisfactory, but I do not believe that. This is a very effective way of showing just how abrupt and scary and fast abstraction or death, if we are speaking frankly about the analogy of abstraction being death, can be. The characters do not get time to be caught in a dramatic battle with Jax abstracting. They do not even get time to come in terms with that. This just happens seemingly overnight, and now you have to piece yourself back together. It is symbolic that it is Pomni, the one who is too stubborn to give up, who does something that no one has ever done before, touches Jax's abstraction and tries to connect with it. One of the ways Jax's abstraction can be interpreted, that abstraction is death, and characters reacting like that is them showing their grief. Now, there are conflicting views on the topic of abstraction. Many people see it as the final point of no return, basically death, as much as death can be in the digital circus. Others, however, say that abstraction is more of an extreme mental breakdown, a person losing themselves in their pain so deeply they can't come back. I support both interpretations and even more. I think the show deliberately left it vague. Pomni enters Jax's mind, something that I could not have ever predicted or theorized. She goes through Jax's inner psyche, his perceptions of himself. We got a violent, dissociating one, the persona who does not treat anything in the circus as real, that we were shown in the Ragatha abstraction scenario. Then we also got the downright inappropriate persona, who flexes their confidence and power over more calm personalities such as Gangle. I appreciate the episode not being afraid of being uncomfortable, to show the characters being deeply flawed in such ways that make the viewer uncomfortable as well. Then there is the Looney Tunes Jax. I see this as him leaning into the Bugs Bunny worldview, in a sense that nothing here is actually real. There is no place for deep emotions or actual grief when everything is treated as a cartoon. As Pomni goes deeper into Jax's psyche, she gets into the room where the three personalities and the evil Jax are locked together. These versions start slowly disappearing, which can be interpreted as Jax's mind collapsing. Pomni is finally entering Jax's door, which shows her his real memories, and so begins the biggest flashback of this entire episode. And I think that it's also the source of many complaints, because this flashback took a lot of time and introduced at least two new characters, Kaufmo and Ribbit. You can understand why some people were unsatisfied, since it took time from other characters we've spent time with, such as Gangle, Zobel, Ragatha, and Kinga. They all got sidelined, and as much as I love the show and enjoyed the finale, I have to agree. This flashback wants to do too many things at the same time. show Jax's backstory, establish his relationship with Kaufman and Ribbit, make us root for Ribbit and feel bad for her, and finally reveal Jax's inner turmoil. He refuses to be emotionally vulnerable and pushes everyone away because of that, which is not something we didn't know about him, but it's good to see when it all began. I think the flashback perfectly encapsulates the general problem of the finale. It wants to be too many things at once. But going back to Jax, we see how he is someone too stubborn to heal, too stubborn to connect, and too stubborn to admit his mistakes. After learning about Ribbit, Jax doubles down on dissociation, treating everything like a game, pushing everybody else away, including Kaufman and Ragatha. From Ribbit's abstraction, Jax actively became trapped and sealed his own fate. The most emotionally devastating scene is Pomni and Jax's last meeting. Jax says that it wasn't supposed to be like that nobody was supposed to miss him. It is framed like the end of him, at least thematically. If abstraction is death, then in Jax's case, abstraction is him taking his own life. He feels he had no other choice, but now that the end is near, he doesn't want to go. Pomni is ready to reach out to Jax. If he only had asked, she would have shared his pain and helped him grow. But he didn't ask, because despite Pomni always being ready to give him a chance, he never gave a chance to himself. Jax's whole story, his character arc, his personal pain are topics for another discussion, which will take a lot more time than this review can possibly have. So here's the deal. I will release a very detailed Jax analysis video where I will talk about his whole journey. If you want a deep Jax analysis, please subscribe and write so in the comments. The only thing I want to tell about the abstraction scene is that it leans too much into thematically showing abstraction as death rather than establishing it in the actual story. I get it, it was left ambiguous on purpose, but I'd argue in this case, the story would benefit from losing ambiguity and establishing that abstraction is either death with no return or something that can be reversed. Of course, hinting that abstraction can be reversed would cheapen the tragedy of the finale a bit, but it could also bring the message of hope to those who are struggling with a similar pain as Jax does. We see that it's possible to go into abstracted people's subconscious and talk to them, so why can't the abstraction be undone? What stops the cast from undoing it? With eternity in your hands, even that could be possible. Personally, I'd be fine with either path to treat abstraction. But with trying to give the audience both interpretations, the show delivers neither to a satisfactory degree. Now, let's go to another story that I believe did not get enough time to fully develop: Caine's redemption arc. Just like Jax's portion of the finale, Caine wants to be too many things at once. His return from the dead, personal crisis, healing journey, self-reflection, and finally redemption. Truth is, none of these things have been done in a bad way in this episode, but Caine had criminally little time. If Jax's story has been developed through the whole show and he received lots of opportunities to show his character, Caine was sidelined for the most part until the later part of the show. His redemption journey should have been, in my opinion, a whole separate episode and receive as much time and care as Jax's character arc did. And I'm not just saying this because I am a Caine fan. I enjoy Jax's character and his story, but I also think that it actively took from the development of other cast members. What pains me is that Caine's story is honestly treated like a bit of an afterthought, and most of it happens in an epic montage. So, let's recap. Caine gets banished into the void. Somehow he isn't deleted at all and it's never explained. He's actually doing fine. The circus members just relocated him to another location. Caine has a breakdown where one part of him wants to be a villain and another part wants friendship and rainbows, and the friendship side wins. He discovers social media and goes insane from Twitter. Just kidding. But he does go to the internet and sees the circus members as humans and not the avatars of his digital world. I think this is the moment when he finally understands that everyone had a whole other world before the circus and the pain that came with being severed from it. A quick note for everyone who was confused about the sequence of reaching the internet by Caine. There are two timelines, one where he is a red dot accessing brain scans in the past, and another where he connects to Wi-Fi in the present. Those are two separate events. Scratch's brain file was recovered in the past, he's not here now. Now, let's talk about Caine's growth journey and his redemption. Again, way too big of a topic to fit into a simple finale review. I will do a separate video for Caine. In the finale, he does self-reflection alone and grows as a person by himself. He is banished, learns his mistakes, and becomes better without external help. I think Caine needed at least some communication with the circus gang on his road to redemption, mostly because it clashes with the theme of connection and healing together that the show tries to display. Sure, it is nice that the gang accepted the reformed Caine, but it seems unsatisfactory that he had to do all the growth behind the scenes, in a sense. What I mean is, his redemption was done in a big cinematic moment instead of actual reflection and taking accountability. This is yet another problem with the compressed time frame of the finale. Caine doesn't get the time to face consequences or at least be confronted. At the same time, he doesn't get enough opportunities to voice his own concerns and feelings to finally reach understanding with the other circus members. Right now, it feels as if this grand gesture and saying sorry is completely fine to bury the tremendous amount of trauma and animosity that erupted in episode 8. My opinion, Caine's redemption could be developed way more. Again, all of these problems tie into the fact that the finale tries to conclude too many stories in too little time. And the character who suffers the absolute most of it is Ragatha. I don't believe Ragatha's character arc was satisfactory. We get an attempt at showing Ragatha and Pomni's relationship arc resolution, which has been the most upsetting storyline for me so far. It was like a band-aid placed on a giant tear. Not because I disliked the idea of Pomni and Ragatha being friends, but because it was so underdeveloped that it became silly at one point. I'm sure that all of you know what I'm talking about. The montage of Ragatha and Pomni walking away from each other after giving a hug over some uplifting music. Truth be told, I was not sold on the idea of Ragatha being Pomni's best friend in the circus, or even the first friend, when episode 4 established Pomni being kind of weirded out by Ragatha's constant positivity bombarding, and her trying to always be uplifted and positive to the point of coming off as insincere. Ragatha and Pomni's relationship has been a critique of the amazing digital circus for a long time, and it even came to the point where Gooseworks wrote on Reddit that Ragatha would get character development in the last episode, which was later deleted. And I have to disagree. Ragatha did not get actual character development. Her role was again reduced to supporting others. In the finale specifically, her filling the role of Pomni's best friend was shakily justified at best. Ragatha and Pomni did not get enough screen time together, and they certainly did not get enough development together. If anything, Pomni had more emotionally open moments with Caine. She had been vulnerable with him, and they have been together through real danger. Ragatha's mistreatment is one of the biggest flaws of the amazing digital circus writing. Just to clarify, I am not saying that Ragatha should have suddenly declared her backstory about her abusive mother, or maybe how hard it was for her in the circus. The character does not have to give their entire backstory to have a satisfactory ending. But the issue of her people-pleasing, of struggling to connect despite wanting to, as well as her own feelings about the circus, not about Jack's relationships with Ribbit or her relationships with Pomni, but Ragatha's own personal emotions, have never been explored to an extent this character deserves. I think to never give Ragatha, who always cares about others more than herself, a chance to take the central stage and finally express her own concerns is a crime. It's always about Jax, about Pomni, about the feelings of others. But what about Ragatha? Well, she got a hug and a slow motion sequence, I suppose. Now that the three main issues are covered, let me wrap up my review of the finale. The last part with the cast scene real life was lovely. Them accepting the circus as home was also lovely. Caine becoming part of the family was wonderful. But it could have been better if we had more episodes and more room to breathe. See the characters' dynamics and resolutions post-finale play out even more. Do not take this criticism as me hating the show. I adore the amazing digital circus, but loving something does not mean ignoring its problems. Despite all that, I think this is a wonderful end of a wonderful show that touched so many people because it wasn't afraid to be sincere and show good and bad in character, to be real. The last episode portrayed this strength to the fullest. Thank you so much for watching this review, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos such as that. I really appreciate your support, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.